So, with Rick and Morty Season 7 having concluded, let's have a look at what went down and what my thoughts are on the current state of the show. But wait, only 1.7% of you guys are subscribed, so if you want to support the channel, hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's have a quick recap of everything that happened in Season 7. Just as a quick warning, there are spoilers ahead. After divorcing Amy, Mr. Poopy Butthole's alcoholism strains his stay at the Smith household. The family demands Rick intervene. However, their effort turns into a wild party with friends and Hugh Jackman. Troubled by the thoughts of Amy, Mr. Poopy Butthole urges Rick's group to mend ties, discovering Amy's relationship with a predator investigator. Mr. Poopy Butthole realizes his poor example, returns his son, and chooses sobriety, while Rick and his friends disperse. Rick and Jerry argue about intelligence, leading to a mind swap experiment. In their new bodies, Rick and Jerry accidentally harm themselves, but are healed by a medical robot, resulting in a blend of their brains. Meanwhile, Morty is captured by alien gangsters. The hybrid Rick-Jerry duo, Burger and Fries, rescue Morty's family. However, they realize their responsibility and combine into Jericho to save them. The family forces a separation, and Rick and Jerry return to their usual bickering dynamic. President Curtis recruits Rick to investigate a cult in Virginia, prompting Rick's suspicion about the president's interest in his therapist, Dr. Wong. The duo discover that unity has taken over Virginia and aims to achieve 100% approval globally. President Curtis hijacks the hive mind, leading Rick and Dr. Wong to seek Unity's help. Together, they thwart President Curtis's plan and free the infected. In the aftermath, President Curtis contemplates therapy, signaling a potential change. Rick serves a unique spaghetti sourced from a planet where suicide victims transform into the dish. Morty's guilt leads to a revelation, prompting the planet's president to legalize suicide for spaghetti production. Rick's attempts to fix the situation fail, and he resorts to a live broadcast, revealing the grim reality behind the spaghetti. The shock turns people away, ending the demand. Rick warns of another horrifying source for Salisbury steak, but the family prefers ignorance, opting for laughter over awareness. Evil Morty's origin unfolds as he escapes a demeaning life with Rick using controlling devices. His retirement is disrupted by Rick and Morty's quest for Rick Prime. Captured by other Ricks seeking revenge for their slain wives, they discover Rick Prime's Omega device, capable of erasing anyone across the universe. Evil Morty thwarts Rick Prime, deactivates the device, and lets Rick defeat him. Returning home, Rick grapples with a sense of purpose after finally dispatching Rick Prime. To reignite Rick's adventure spirit, Morty cashes in Morty Adventure cards, leading to an audit by the omniscient Observer. Growing frustrated with the Observer's clip show approach, they demand him to leave. In retaliation, the Observer harasses the Smith family, prompting Morty to inadvertently kill him. The Observers put Rick and Morty on trial, but Rick exposes their abuse, causing chaos amongst observers. Escaping, Rick and Morty embark on a new adventure, leaving the chaotic trial behind. Summer acquires an attribute slider from Rick, hoping to impress her friends. Jealous, Morty causes a mishap, fusing their bodies into a Quato. Ridiculed, Summer seeks Rick's help, but she's told to do chores. They uncover a Quato trafficking ring, led by Kenneth. After a battle, Rick defeats Kenneth, and Morty gains a robot walker. Using it, Morty wins a Frolf tournament, restoring Summer's reputation. The bizarre adventure explores identity, acceptance, and the consequence of Rick's inventions. Water T defends his home planet from the Numericon invasion, inheriting the Eye of Harmony pendant. Seeking help from his maths teacher, Mr. Goldenfold, Water T deciphers the pendant equation with Morty. they learn about mythical planet E10, where Water Tea and Sinister 7 reluctantly join forces. Facing the threat of Infinity, Water Tea unites the Alphabetrians and Numericons, with Rap transforming into Magma Tea. Together with Sinister 7, they use the Eye of Harmony to defeat Infinity. Morty gains a newfound appreciation for math, and Magma Tea fulfills his overdue homework. Rick discovers the afterlife's infinite energy after accidentally killing Jerry. To exploit it, Rick and Morty journey to Valhalla, facing Viking challenges. Meanwhile, Bigfoot is used by the Pope to kill all the Church's enemies. Rick, Morty and Bigfoot revive using Operation Phoenix, but fail to stop the Pope. Tricking the Vikings, they strip the Pope's powers, trapping him in a Pokeball. They send Bigfoot back to the woods despite his now human form, concluding the bizarre adventure. Rick and Morty, desensitized to fear, encounter a man offering a terrifying experience in a fear hole inside a Denny's bathroom. Morty faces his fears, believing Rick followed, but they're stuck in the loop. Through the journey of the fears, they encounter Rick's dead wife. Morty realizes the endless loop stems from his fear of Rick leaving. Overcoming this fear, Morty escapes. Rick, tempted by the fear hole's promise, decides against entering and commemorates Morty's triumph. This episode explores Morty's deepest fear and the dynamic between him and Rick. Okay, now that we're caught up, what did I like about Season 7? First of all, with the controversy surrounding Justin Roiland, which led to his firing, I have to give props to the new voice actors of Rick and Morty. Whilst I could tell they weren't the same voices us fans were used to, I would say that the voice actors still put on a good enough performance, which was still familiar enough to enjoy. Just like all the other fantastic celebrity cameos we've had in the past, this season did not fall short. I never would have thought I'd laugh at Hugh Jackman being in an episode of Rick and Morty. The writers did a great job in portraying this Australian legend as a bit of a jackass, a complete contrast to what we're used to, and that's what made it work so well. And then of course in episode 8, Ice-T's father is actually voiced by the main man himself, which was a nice little Easter egg. Now I'm also glad that by the middle of the season, the show had dealt with the whole Rick Prime situation. My main concern was that this would be a recurring subplot that we'd be chasing for another 2 seasons. Instead, by episode 5, it was dealt with, as we witnessed Rick brutally punch his wife's murderer to death. As we're discussing episode 5, I want to mention that I appreciate how the writers added another layer to Evil Morty. Since the introduction of this character, we had this perception of him being a key villain, but then things changed in season 5 finale, when we learned that Evil Morty's plan had always been to essentially be free from Rick, which is why it was interesting to see him being brought back, but this time to assist Rick and showcase his intelligence that would lead to the capture of Rick Prime. From episode 5 onwards, I really enjoyed how the first time in a while we weren't dealing with a season where everything added up to this crazy finale, like the Marvel movies. Instead, we got to enjoy individual stories completely unrelated to each other. From episode 8, exploring the aftermath of Ice-T's return to his home planet, to episode 10, which looked into Morty's mind and what his darkest, deepest fears were. This range of storytelling meant, for me at least, that I never got bored of the new episodes. Okay, so I mentioned what I liked, now on to the not so positive stuff. Summer and Beth have been nerfed this season, which is such a shame because I thought the previous seasons were building up to show that both Summer and Beth were more similar to Rick than anyone else. Summer was effectively the next Rick in making. She's surprisingly one of the smarter characters and the first person Rick would go to for help. It would have also been nice to see what mayhem Rick and Beth could cause, because as we know from the past, when the two are together, there's always bound to be something messed up. I talked about how post episode 5, all the episodes felt like you could enjoy them individually. I will say, in particular with episodes 1 and 5, they both required viewers to have watched the previous seasons to really understand what was happening, and even then it could get a little confusing. So, as much as I'm a fan of Mr. Poopy Butthole, I do think his presence has been overused quite a bit, and the same could be said with Rick Prime and Evil Morty, so I do hope Season 8 dials down their presence. My final complaint is that whilst I thoroughly enjoyed the season, Rick and Morty just doesn't seem to take as many risks. I mean, this is the show which has a giant incest baby floating in space. I just found a lack of shock in any of the episodes, and I feel like if I had been a new viewer and my exposure to Rick and Morty was Season 7, I'm not entirely sure if the show would have captured my attention. I mean, we've gone from episodes where a man was shagging magical creatures and eating his babies, to Mr. Poopy Butthole dealing with alcoholism and separation. I think in the next season, we really need the creators to stir up some wild shit and bring back the shock factor to the show. I want to also start rating things, so I'll give this season a 7.5 out of 10. Overall, I enjoyed the season. I feel like it closed a lot of chapters that needed closure, and hopefully moving forward, Season 8 starts a fresh chapter with more wild adventures. So yeah, that's my 2 cents, and catch you guys in a bit.